Well, Fanalysis is a segment using the analytics made popular in fantasy football combined with the latest betting trends. What's revealed are the sharpest angles. We are now joined by the Chief Product Officer at the Quant Edge. Eliot Crist joins us once again, talking about the biggest game of the year, man. The biggest event in sports gaming, I should say, happens this Sunday, the Super Bowl. And because of that attention, it feels like the lines are sharper than ever. The Chiefs favored by 1.5 over the Niners. The pros seem to be lining up behind Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Do the numbers support his side of things?
I mean, why would you not want to support Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean,
It's too easy.
It's hard to find numbers that don't say Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback. But, I mean, especially lately, since he's come back from that dislocated kneecap, you know, he's been healthy, he's moving around a lot, he's making plays downfield, 13 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns in his last 6 games. And, you know, what he does well and what the Chiefs do well on offense is what gives the 49ers problems. You know, you look at specifically, the 49ers are known as this great pass rushing team. And I'm certainly not going to sit up here and tell you that they're not that. But first half of the year, 31% pressure rate. Second half of the year, 22% pressure rate. One of the things they've really struggled with is quarterbacks that can avoid pressure, kind of improv and get the ball down the field. Guys like Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson both got them and had a lot of big plays against them. That's what Patrick Mahomes is known for. You know, he's been pressured the same rate as Jimmy Garoppolo this year and has been sacked 15 less times. He makes plays downfield, and then the 49ers have an elite secondary. They certainly do. Richard Sherman has been playing out of his mind. But what they struggle with is speed. And I don't think there's a faster team in the NFL than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I think you bring up a great point, because just like when we were breaking down the NFC Championship game, the Packers' issue was they were terrible against the play-action pass, and the Niners were the best play-action pass team in the NFL, and we saw the results of that. So in this scenario, speed certainly kills. One team has an elite aerial attack. One team has an elite defense. The problem is, the phrase is, defense wins championships.
Yeah, you know, certainly it's a phrase, and there are a lot of sayings that don't necessarily pan out, right? But listen, they're a great defense. The 49ers also have a really good offense. Their passing game hasn't needed to be called on as much this year, so people are down on it, but they're certainly able to do it. They can run the football. There's a lot of ways the 49ers can win the game, because they're in the Super Bowl, right? You don't make the Super Bowl without being a great team, but the Chiefs are on fire right now. They're clicking on all cylinders. We just saw them take away Derrick Henry, who couldn't be taken away by anyone else. So I think that if this game comes down to Patrick Mahomes versus Jimmy Garoppolo, and Patrick Mahomes' ability to make defenders miss and make plays downfield, that you got to lean the Chiefs in this game.
All right. Clearly, we are expecting a bit of a shootout. The over-under is at 54. Again, plenty of support on the scoring side of things here. Is that what the model suggests as well? A lot of scoring.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get away from it, you know, because every time the 49ers get pushed on offense, you know, they start throwing the ball a lot, and they're going to give up points, and they're going to score points. And, you know, 54.5 is a sharp line. We saw it open at 51, climbed all the way up to 55. It's probably going to come down to about Sunday morning, where more casual bettors will start betting it up. So, you know, people are going to overreact to the line movement. In my opinion, it's a lot of sharps trying to get a nice middle, a 4-point middle. That's a huge number. I do ultimately lean this game going over, because I think the Chiefs are going to push the 49ers enough where they have to throw the ball, play action pass, George Kittle, and you're going to see points scored in this game. I think it's going to be an incredibly exciting Super Bowl.
You brought up a great point. You're actually betting the public here, and the public trends and how they're going to be betting this scoring. Could this number of 54 reach a point where you would flip to the under?
Oh, yes.
Okay, what number would that be?
57, okay. I would say. You know, once you get that high, that's a huge number. Plus, if I'm already on the over 54, that gives me a nice 3-point middle where I can potentially hit both bets, and now I kind of have a 20-to-1 proposition that it's going to hit in the middle there. So I think the over is a sharp range, but like you mentioned, there's a history of Super Bowl markets where they know that the line's going to get bet up immediately on the over, it's going to trend down on the under, and then game day it goes back up. So if you're going to want to bet the over, the best time to do it is Saturday. If you want to bet the under, the best time to do it is Sunday right before kickoff.
Hey, it's like the smart stockbrokers bet both sides of it if you possibly can. You always want to kind of create an expected story of the game. Does the expected story of this game almost recommend a parlay instead of straight up bets?
Yeah, I mean, Listen, there's a lot of stories you could tell, right? The 49ers win this game because they're able to dominate on the ground, keep the Chiefs' offense off the field. So they win the game, and the game goes under. The Chiefs, I don't see them winning this game in a 21-17 format. I think if they win, they're going to outscore the 49ers. Of course, they're going to outscore the 49ers if they win, right? That's how winning works.
But it's going to be a shootout as well.
Exactly.
We know
exactly.
We're going there.
So
it wasn't going to be a 13-3 match.
Right. So I think the Chiefs and the over make a lot of sense. I think that the 49ers offense has shown that when they get pushed, like the Saints game is a great example, they can put up a lot of points. The Chiefs struggle to cover tight ends. George Kittle should have a big game. I know we're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but I think Chiefs and the over makes a lot of sense as a parlay.
Well, I'm not going to make everybody wait here because I think Super Bowl props can be a lot of fun. But what were the top 3 Super Bowl props? Gatorade,
National Anthem, and coin toss.
And coin toss, which are, by the way, meaningless to the actual game, more or less. But so sometimes, obviously, these Super Bowl props can be a little goofy. But when you look at what's happening on the field, that's where the measurables come into play. Can you offer some possible good value with some of these props? And we'll start with the Niners. And like you said, tight end George Kittle, his yardage total, 72.5. Does he clear it?
Oh, yes. And, I just got to say, we started off with a saying before, defense wins championships. There's also tails never fails if we want to just completely bet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, tails never fails. So there we go.
Tails never fails. Do we have a color on the Gatorade as well you might want to throw out there?
I'll throw out yellow. Last 2 times Andy Reid's been dumped with Gatorade, it has been yellow. But
You've researched this.
There's no analytics that I have backing on the color of the Gatorade. I will say purple has dropped from 12-1 to plus 120. So there's been a lot of steam on purple. But more importantly,
George Kittle.
George Kittle. I actually have some knowledge on George Kittle. So if you look at games where the opposing team has scored over 21 points, he's gone over 67 yards every game and over 72 yards in all but one. So when they get in these back and forth games, they get the ball to George Kittle. People are down on him because he has 6 targets this playoffs.
Yeah.
They've thrown the ball 27 times. It's tough to get passes thrown to you if you don't throw the ball, right? So that's still a 22%.
I was going to say from a percentage.
It's still high volume.
Share, right?
So, and you look at the Chiefs, they're bottom 4 in both receiving yards and receptions allowed to the tight end. George Kittle kills people on play action. He kills people on third down. In November alone, Jimmy G was 16 of 16 targeting George Kittle on third down. So when they have to get in these passing games, George Kittle's their guy. I think George Kittle over 72.5 yards has a really high probability of hitting.
Sticking with the Niners, we haven't exactly seen a ton of big numbers from Jimmy Garoppolo in this postseason. He's averaging 104 passing yards per game in the postseason, but they have his over-under at 239.5.
Yeah, and I think the over is...
And that's a legitimate number there.
Yeah, again, it comes back to they haven't needed to throw the ball. Why would you throw the ball if every time I run the ball I get 12 yards against the Green Bay Packers?
Right.
There's no reason to open up the game for them. I'm just going to hand it off every time. But going back to when teams push them, in games where Jimmy Garoppolo's or the 49ers give up 21 or more points, he's averaging 295 passing yards.
Okay. So
he'll push the ball down the field. The 49ers and the Chiefs are actually the top 2 teams in deep ball catchable percentage. So they push the ball down the field. George Kittle leads the league in yards after catch. Deebo Samuel leads the league in yards after catch per reception. So these guys, he's got playmakers who can, make plays, and he can attack accurately down the field. So if I like the over and I like the Chiefs, it means that Jimmy G is going to have to throw, and I think he'll comfortably sail over 239.5.
We'll roll through the next ones here. The Chiefs side of things, Tyreek Hill's prop 74.5. Is there an appetite for that right now?
Oh, yeah. I think Hill, you're going to see a lot of Tyreek Hill. I can't talk about all the speed and then not mention the guy whose nickname is Cheetah. Right, and so there's been a lot of talk about Richard Sherman guarding him, and Sherman's been one of the best corners in the NFL, and that's fair. The 49ers play off coverage more than any other team in the NFL. Now, people are going to point to Tyreek Hill against press coverage is averaging 19 yards per target, and then against off coverage, he's only averaging 11 yards per target. But that makes sense because if you're playing off, they're going to take away the deep ball. But they're going to have hitch and comebacks all day long against Richard Sherman. He'll be peppered with those. And the second Sherman plays that, he's going to go over the top. And Sherman doesn't have the catch-up speed to hang out with Tyreek Hill. So I think you're seeing 8 to 10 targets from Tyreek Hill, and I think he has a good shot to clear 100 yards, nonetheless 75.
Just because those under coverage routes aren't getting as many yards doesn't mean that it's not setting up the deep ball as well. All right, every Super Bowl tends to have an unlikely hero, and the Chiefs have a receiver in McCole Hardman who has an over-under of 22.5. Are you seeing the trends with him pointing in that direction?
This is one of the things I love about the Super Bowl, is there's not really a player you can't find a player prop bet on. Like, if you want to go bet on Kyle Juszczyk for receiving yards, the fullback for the 49ers, you can do that. But Hardman's actually been an incredibly successful player for the Kansas City Chiefs, who's getting better and better and playing more and more. Demarcus Robinson's playing time is dropping because he's really struggled. Hardman is picking up, so we're seeing 41% of the snaps last week. He's averaging 20.7 yards per catch. If he ran 21 routes. They struggle with speed. If they do try to take away Hill by shadowing or having a safety go over the top with Sherman, you're going to see Hardman in single coverage, and they're going to pick on him with some deep shots. And I think he'll sail over this total.
Well, I tell you what, it's going to be an entertaining Super Bowl without a doubt, and it's going to be fun just to see which of these props kind of pan out. But more than anything, we're going to have fun on Super Bowl Sunday. You can get all of his insights at the Quant Edge. For Eliot Crist, I'm Steve Overmyer. Enjoy the Super Bowl.